Washington Capitals jokes, NHL jokes. Q. What do the Washington Capitals and the Titanic have in common? A. They both look good until they hit the ice. Q. What's the difference between frequent flyer miles and the Washington Capitals? A. Frequent flyer miles earn points. Q. Why do Capitals fans drink from a saucer? A. Because the cup's always in Detroit. Q. Why did the Capitals enforcer retire early? A. He was ice fishing and got run over by the Zamboni. Q. Why don't the Capitals drink tea? A. Because the Canadiens and Red Wings have all the cups. Q. What do you call 5 Washington Capitals players standing ear to ear? A. A wind tunnel. Q. Why are the Capitals like grizzly bears? A. Every fall they go into hibernation. Q. What does a recent high school dropout and the Washington Capitals have in common? A. They're both young, have no goals and no good prospects. Q. What's the difference between a line of cocaine and a pair of Capitals tickets? A. People would pass up a pair of Capitals tickets. Q. What's the difference between a fat chick and the Washington Capitals? A. Even a fat chick scores every once in a while. Q. Why do the Capitals suck at geometry? A. Because they never have any points. Q. What is it called when a Washington Capitals player blows in another Capitals player's ear? A. Data transfer. Q. What do college students and the Capitals have in common? A. They've both finished their year by April. Q. What's blue and orange and goes down the toilet faster than liquid? Plumber. A. The Washington Capitals. Q. What do a fine wine and the Washington Capitals have in common? A. They both spend a lot of time in the cellar, cost too much and are only enjoyed on select occasions. Q. Why did the post office recall their latest stamps? A. They had pictures of Capitals players on them and people couldn't figure out which side to spit on. Q. Why do people like driving a car with a Capitals fan? A. Because you can park in the handicap zone. Q. What do you get when you combine all 23 Washington Capitals with 23 lesbians? A. 46 people that don't do dick. Q. What is the difference between a Washington Capitals fan and a pothole? A. I would swerve to avoid the pothole. Q. What song do Washington Capitals fans sing before the end of the third period? A. Nobody knows. There's never any of them left. Q. What's the difference between the Washington Capitals and a mosquito? A. A mosquito stops sucking. Q. What do the Washington Capitals and possums have in common? A. Both play dead at home and get killed on the road. Q. What is the difference between a Capitals fan and a baby? A. The baby will stop whining after a while. Q. Did you hear the Washington Capitals are moving to the Philippines? A. They are going to be called the Manila Folders. Q. What do I have in common with the Washington Capitals? A. Next week, we'll both be watching the Stanley Cup Finals on television. Q. What do Washington Capitals fans and sperm have in common? A. 1 in 3 million has a chance of becoming a human being. Q. How many Washington Capitals does it take to change a tire? A. 1, unless it's a blowout, in which case they all show up. Q. What do you call 23 millionaires around a TV watching the Stanley Cup Finals? A. The Washington Capitals. Q. How can you tell if a Capitals fan just sent you a fax? A. There's a stamp on it. Q. What do the Washington Capitals and Billy Graham have in common? A. They both can make 15,000 people stand up and yell Jesus Christ. Q. What is the difference between a bucket of shit and an Washington Capitals fan? A. The bucket. Q. If you have a car containing a Capitals forward, a Capitals center, and a Capitals defender, who is driving the car? A. The cop. Q. How do you castrate an Washington Capitals fan? A. Kick his sister in the mouth. Q. What should you do if you find 3 Washington Capitals hockey fans buried up to their neck in cement? A. Get more cement. Q. What's the difference between an Washington Capitals fan and a carp? A. One is a bottom-feeding scum sucker, and the other is a fish. Q. How did the Washington Capitals fan die from drinking milk? A. The cow fell on him. Q. What does an Washington Capitals fan do when his team has won the Stanley Cup? A. He turns off the PlayStation 3. Q. How many Washington Capitals fans does it take to change a light bulb? A. None. Lava lamps don't burn out, man. Q. What does a Washington Capitals fan and a bottle of beer have in common? A. They're both empty from the neck up. Q. Why do Washington Capitals fans keep their season tickets on their dashboards? A. So they can park in handicap spaces. Q. How do the Capitals spend the first week of training camp? A. Studying the Miranda rights. Q. How do you keep a Capitals fan from masturbating? A. You paint his dick Flyers orange and black and he won't beat it for 4 years. Q. Why do ducks fly over Verizon Center upside down? A. There's nothing worth craping on. Q. Why doesn't Maryland have a professional hockey team? A. Because then Washington, D.C. would want one. Q. Did you hear that Washington's hockey team doesn't have a website? A. They can't string 3 Ws together. Q. What's the difference between a Verizon Center hot dog and a Wells Fargo Center hot dog? A. You can buy a Wells Fargo Center hot dog in May. Q. Why did BP hire the Washington Capitals to clean up the Gulf oil spill? A. Because they'll go out there and throw in the towel. Q. What's the difference between a dead dog in the road and a dead Washington Capitals fan in the road? A. There are skid marks in front of the dog. Q. What is a Washington Capitals fan's favorite wine? A. We can't beat Philadelphia. Q. How do you stop an Washington Capitals fan from beating his wife? A. Dress her in Philadelphia orange and black. Q. What's the difference between the Verizon Center and a red light district? A. In a red light district, you pay $300 and somebody scores. Q. What's the difference between the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals? A. The Wizards shoot at a net. Q. Why are the Washington Capitals like the United States Postal Service? A. They both wear uniforms and don't deliver. Reckless driver. A Capitals fan liked to amuse himself by scaring every Flyers fan he saw strutting down the street in an obnoxious hockey jersey. He would swerve his van as if to hit them, then swerve back, just missing them. One day while driving along, he saw a priest. He thought he would do a good deed, so he pulled over and asked the priest, "Where are you going?" "Father, I'm going to give Mass at St. Francis Church, about 2 miles down the road," replied the priest. "Climb in, Father. I'll give you a lift." The priest climbed into the passenger seat, and they continued down the road. Suddenly, the driver saw a Flyers fan walking down the road, and he instinctively swerved as if to hit him. But, as usual, he swerved back onto the road just in time. Even though he was certain that he had missed the guy, he still heard a loud thud. Not knowing where the noise came from, he glanced in his mirrors but still didn't see anything. He then remembered the priest, and he turned to the priest and said, "Sorry, Father, I almost hit that Flyers fan." "That's okay," replied the priest, "I got him with the door." Better at sex. There were 2 men, one was a Capitals fan and the other was a Flyers fan. These men were both madly in love with the same woman. So the woman challenged that whichever man does a better job at having sex with her would be her boyfriend. Both men accepted the challenge. That night, the woman had sex with the Capitals fan and then the other night had sex with the Flyers fan. The next day the woman chose the Flyers fan to be her boyfriend. Shocked and outraged, the Capitals fan asked why she didn't choose him. She replied by saying, "You, like your team, not only come up short but always finish early." Career Day. It's career day in elementary school where each student talks about what their dad does. Little Johnny is last, and finally the teacher calls on him to talk about his dad. Johnny comes to the front of the class. "My daddy is a dancer at a gay bar. He takes off his clothes for other men, and if they pay him enough money, he goes into the alley and performs sex acts on them." The teacher is shocked, and she calls for an early recess for the rest of the class. She sits down with Johnny and asks him if this is really true about his dad. Johnny says, "No, but I was too embarrassed to say he played for the Washington Capitals." First grade. A first grade teacher explains to her class that she is a Washington Capitals fan. She asks her students to raise their hands if they were Capitals fans, too. Not really knowing what a Capitals fan was, but wanting to be like their teacher, hands explode into the air. There is, however, one exception. A girl named Mary has not gone along with the crowd. The teacher asks her why she has decided to be different. "Because I'm not a Capitals fan." Then, asks the teacher, "What are you?" "Why, I'm proud to be a Philadelphia Flyers fan," boasts the little girl. The teacher is a little perturbed now, her face slightly red. She asks Mary why she is a Flyers fan. "Well, my dad and mom are Flyers fans, and I'm a Flyers fan, too." The teacher is now angry. "That's no reason," she says loudly. "What if your mom was a moron, and your dad was a moron, what would you be then?" A pause, and a smile. "Then," says Mary, "I'd be a Capitals fan." Skunk. A skunk walks into a bar and sees three guys in the corner wearing Washington Capitals jerseys. He turns to the bartender and says, "Y'all think I stink?"